We're here with our partners, Steer Fort Worth, and with KRA, all nonprofit, nonpartisan organizations committed to civic engagement. So that's why we have this and why we're so pleased that you're all here. If all the mayoral candidates, we want to stay on a tight schedule because we've got a lot of ground to cover tonight. If we're missing a few, if they could come to the stage, if anybody is here that I'm missing, and we'll get started in just a minute. And we know that the mayor's got a tight schedule, so she's got to be out by 6, and we're going to want to stay on schedule. Oh, we got another candidate joining us. Great.
How are you?
Thank you. Well, the format for tonight is each candidate will have a minute for opening remarks, and then each candidate will have each field a question in alphabetical order and have a minute for response. And then each candidate will have a minute for closing remarks. So we're going to have to stay on a tight schedule. We'll have a timekeeper right up front here. George is right up front, and let people know. So hope you stick to your schedule, and we'll get going with that. Let's start with, well, first, we have 5 mayoral candidates. All were invited. We have running for mayor this year, Ken Bowens Jr., Jennifer Castillo, Allison Kennedy, incumbent Mayor Maddie Parker, and Adrian Smith. So with that, we're going to start with 1-minute introductions. So candidate Castillo, please go ahead.
For the past few years, I have witnessed the devastating effects of poor leadership, reckless fiscal policies, and aggressive federal rate hikes on our economy. Amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, property values have soared, while the largest rate hikes in history have crippled our nation's financial stability. Our citizens have lost their jobs, businesses, and even their lives. We have overcome some of the toughest struggles in recent times. Locally, in Fort Worth, we are a tale of two cities. While the West Side strives with prosperous businesses and world-class facilities and rich cultural heritage, other communities have been neglected, marginalized, and forgotten for far too long. Citizens come to me with heartbreaking issues such as their children's underperforming schools, compromised health, inability to afford their property taxes, and police brutality. Sadly, our current administration has mistreated, neglected, and even arrested citizens who speak up against such injustices. This is unacceptable. As a leader, I am committed to restoring the hope to our communities, to be a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves, and making sure that everybody has a seat at the table. My name is Jennifer Castillo. I'm an Air Force veteran, a true patriot, and the only Republican on the ballot. So today, I'm going to give you hope, I'm going to give you voice, and I'm going to make sure everybody here has a seat at the table. So vote for Castillo for mayor on May 6th. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Mayor Parker?
Green light. Good evening. My name is Maddie Parker. I'm proud to be the mayor of Fort Worth. Quite simply, I'm running again after just a year and a half in office because I don't feel like my work is done yet. This has been an honor of a lifetime to get to serve this city. I think a few highlights I'll share with you this evening is first is our focus on being one of the cleanest and safest cities of America. I think that's reflected in the last 2 fiscal year budgets that I've been able to preside over. It's an investment in police officers. It's an investment in our litter abatement and homelessness treatment. And much to the surprise of a lot of people, our budget cycle really is focused on data across the entire city. When you think about a city like Fort Worth, our number one priority is a high quality of life for all residents. And I think it's reflected in the number of people that want to live in a place like Fort Worth. We've seen folks flock from the coastal cities to live in a place like Fort Worth, Texas, for a lot of different reasons. Our emphasis on high-quality education from cradle to career, on economic development that has an emphasis on entrepreneurship, and again, on public safety. Because let's be honest, if you're not investing in public safety, you really have no city moving forward. In closing, I'll just say this. It's unique in a city like the size of Fort Worth to run every 2 years for mayor. But it's also an opportunity for someone like me to remind you why you elected me in the first place. My work is not done, and I really look forward to serving you again for another 2 years. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, thank you. And candidate Smith, you're next.
Adrian Devon Smith. I am native to Fort Worth. My desire for running for mayor is simply out of a desire to serve the people of Fort Worth. I truly feel like we as a city are great, but our greatness has been challenged in the last couple of years. However, despite the challenges, I see us going forward. I think that my campaign is not a campaign of promises. However, my campaign is a campaign of purpose, perspective, and possibilities. Again, it is out of a desire to serve. I have no agendas. I have no personal relationships with anyone, I would say, in Fort Worth, business related or development-wise. I just have a desire to serve, and thank you all for coming out.
Thank you so much. We'll jump right into questions, and I want to explain that these questions come from our reporters who solicit thoughts from our audience, including from neighborhood associations. We thought that was important to hear in each district, and from our Steer Fort Worth partners. So with that explanation, we'll start with the first question, which comes from Janine Lind with Crestwood. She talks about the debates over whether to allow short-term rentals in neighborhoods, which have dominated city council meetings throughout 2022. So the question is, what is your position on short-term rentals and the existing city ordinance? And should short-term rentals be regulated? And if so, how? And by luck of the alphabetical order, you get to start first, candidate Castillo. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're for our, just to be clear on live streaming, they're just so they can keep track of everybody watching at home. They have the titles set up that way in alphabetical order. It's just that for that reason. Go ahead.
Sure. So I have 15 years experience in the real estate industry. I first got my real estate license when I was 19 years old, and one of the things that I've been very passionate about is helping people to purchase their homes. So my belief is that personal property, protecting personal property should be the fundamental right of our administration. So my take on short-term rentals is that we should allow people to do as they please with their properties. If they choose to rent it out, if they choose to generate revenue from their properties, we should allow them to do so.
Great.
Thank you.
We'll go a little out of order and let you introduce yourself. Go ahead.
Sorry, traffic is bad, but
Oh.
There you go.
I didn't.
If we could, just to keep the streaming straight, if you could just move down here, and then we'll keep you in that order. Thank you. I don't want to confuse everybody watching at home, so we'll, and I'm easily confused. So. Thank you, Mr. Bones. So you have a minute to just introduce yourself.
Okay. Jason.
I think it's on.
Hello.
Everybody hear that?
Hello.
Yes, it's on.
Well, my name is Kenneth Barnes Jr. Born and raised in Fort Worth, a Fort Worth resident of 31 years. So, proud member of the East Side area. So, I'm real passionate about city politics, local government. Like I said, born and raised in Fort Worth, attended city council meetings since 7th grade. So I'm really, really passionate about city government. So making a change, making a difference in my community, and like I said, it's a lot of disparities going on in the city of Fort Worth, from the east side to the west side to southwest side to north side. So my goal is to change the narrative and make sure we focus on Fort Worth as a whole, not just certain areas of Fort Worth, but Fort Worth as a whole. So that's one of my goals, to really bridge the gap and end the disparities going on in the city of Fort Worth.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Do we have enough mics for everybody? Let's see, I think we do. I just make sure we're all set. Okay. Well, the question we were asking Candidate Bowens before you came in was about short-term rentals, and what's your position on short-term rentals in the existing city ordinance? And should short-term rentals be regulated? If so, how?
When it comes to short-term rentals, I believe we need to really look into that and at least amend or some type of way revise the current city ordinance. I believe short-term rentals really plays a huge impact in the city of Fort Worth because property rights and stuff like that. So I believe we got to release, amend, or revise and do the current city ordinance to make it right and put some restriction on it too. So that's my stance on short-term rentals.
Okay. Well, same question, Mayor Parker?
Yeah. So as many of you may know, we went through this process over a series of months to really discuss what the policy in the city of Fort Worth should be. At the same time, you saw interest rate hike on mortgages, affordability of housing be a concern. The number one priority for me as your mayor was really maintaining the integrity of our neighborhoods. I do believe in personal property rights. And candidly, there was a period of time at the beginning of this discussion, we thought there was an opportunity to delineate between owner-occupied and investor-owned STRs, which have allowed us to allow those that occupy their home to gain additional revenue. But unfortunately, there was a Fifth Circuit opinion out of New Orleans that prohibited us from doing that after another city was sued for their ordinance. So long story short, I think the ordinance stays where it is right now because neighborhoods have spoken very clearly to us. Hundreds of people from various neighborhoods across the entire city, northwest, east, and across the community really said to us, we were concerned about our neighborhoods. I will mention this, though. You have seen the integrity of neighborhoods be questioned because of rental occupancy going up so significantly and the rates in places across the city. So I don't think this debate is over. And I've had numerous conversations recently with STR owners out of concern. Just in closing, to remind you, you can operate an STR just in specific districts across the city or apply through a CUP or a CUP process in your individual council district. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Candidate Smith, same question?
Okay, in regards to short-term rentals, this is how I looked at the short-term rental situation. You had some people that were for it, and then you had some people who were against it. What I saw with this issue, what this issue did, it caused a division amongst the communities because those who were for it were championing for it. Those who were against it were championing against it. So I feel like our council, and I went on record stating this, that our council should have left it up to the voters to decide if they wanted short-term rentals or not, and not the council make the decision, in spite of litigation, because the citizens are the ones who, you all run the city. We're just your voices. We're just the faces and your voices that you all elect. So in regards to short-term rental, again, I would have made it a ballot issue.
All right, thank you. Next question, a little background is plans to bring a streetcar system in Fort Worth in the past decade or so were stopped by city council members at the time citing cost concerns. What would you do as mayor to help further bring about funding and opportunity to the area transit systems to help move Fort Worth along in more comparison with other large cities and how they deal with public transit? So, Candidate Bowens, you get to tackle that first.
So when it comes to, I believe that's part of the economic development subject. I'm all for bringing the proper economic development projects to the city of Fort Worth. So it's going to benefit the city of Fort Worth as a whole, and make sure it's the right project come to the city of Fort Worth, because we're going to have a cost on it regardless of that. But I believe we got enough money in the budget, in the physical budget, to address that need and address the budget-wise and make sure it's beneficial to the city of Fort Worth.
All right, thank you. And Candidate Castillo, I'll repeat the question in that the background of the efforts to bring a streetcar system in Fort Worth was stopped by City Council in the past But knowing that background, what will you do as mayor to help further bring funding and opportunity to the area transit systems to help bring Fort Worth more in line with other cities of the same size?
So the biggest problem with the transit system is that in isolation, it does not generate enough revenue in and of itself to be able to sustain itself. So they have received subsidies from governments and grants to be able to stay afloat. And one of the biggest contentions with the city council is, why are we giving them money when they can't even generate enough revenue for themselves? So from my understanding, it's about 7% of revenue that it actually generates from the trips. However, looking for a long-term solution, so I know that our current situation right now, we may not have an excessive need at the moment, but looking for a long-term solution for 5, 10, 15 years down the line, I believe that we need to have a very, very strategic approach for this solution. So we need to make sure that we do have transit, we do have people that are able to navigate in and outside of the city so that they can have the opportunity to go to jobs, go to their medical appointments, buy groceries, and have the same equitable resources as other people in the city.
All right. And Mayor Parker, the same question?
So first and foremost, any large city like Fort Worth, now the 12th largest and growing rapidly, you must have a robust public transit system to be successful long-term as a community. The core question here is, what does it look like specifically in Texas in a sprawled city over 350 square miles? So a few things I'll point to. First of all, we have a new CEO, now almost a year here, named Rich Andreski, who's done an excellent job. I actually put 2 of our council members on the Trinity Metro board to make sure we had better connection. Both Michael Crane and Chris Nettle serve on the TM board, doing an excellent job. A few exciting projects online, thanks to the shepherded leadership. I see Ann Zeta and Mayor Price here in the audience. The TexRail project is successful, getting us from downtown to the airport, but we can do more, and we are, thanks to the current funding in place, to take TexRail from downtown into the medical district. And then also think about the corridors that really need robust public transportation, including East Lancaster. And the future of that project is really coming to fruition as soon as this summer, and that's a partnership between the city, North Central Texas Council of Governments, and Trinity Metro. And the last thing I would say about funding, in the city of Fort Worth, we have a 0.5% of our property tax really goes to, our sales tax goes to Trinity Metro. Long-term in Texas, you're gonna have to have additional funding stream that's gonna come from a legislative solution. These are tough topics to have, especially in Austin, but candidly, our other partner cities, including in Dallas, where we have a better connection to regional rail between DART, DCTA, and Trinity Metro, are conversations we have ongoing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Smith?
So in regards to I heard a lot about downtown Fort Worth, you know. I heard a lot about downtown Fort Worth, but I'm more or less concerned about what's going on outside of downtown Fort Worth. When I say that, I think about the northern sector of Fort Worth, where there's a lot of employment opportunities that are being missed out because people cannot get to them because of, the inadequate transportation. And the bus service that goes out there is maybe, I'll say maybe once an hour. But, I mean, we're attracting companies to this city, but nobody's able to, meet the need to get there, And then these companies are getting tax incentives. So basically, the companies are receiving something for nothing, So as far as the streetcar, it seems like another project of somebody's, It sounds like another project of someone. That'll be at the bottom of my project. It'd be more or less just strengthening the areas that are, are without adequate transportation, And I'm sorry, Trinity Metro, it receives a lot, but they can stand and improve their services.
All right, thank you. Well, staying on that same vein of development and traffic, the next question is, as we've heard, Fort Worth, as we know, Fort Worth is booming. So the question is, how can development in Fort Worth happen in a way that does not cause or worsen traffic congestion, that allows for safe entry and exit points to neighborhoods, and preserves access from the neighborhoods to areas like the Culture District, downtown, and the rest of Fort Worth? So it's really a development question on how we grow without making traffic even worse. So Candidate Bones?
So we got to really focus on our city infrastructure. So make sure it's proper in place, having rapid responses, and make sure our TPW department is really functioning and fixing any city infrastructure issue when it comes to city growth and stuff like that. So also make sure the TIP program is functioning properly too, to have with any additional funding and stuff like that. But a strong infrastructure helps out the city growth and stuff like that. So we got to make sure we focus on our city infrastructure, make sure it's really it's in place properly, and make sure it's functioning the right way and addressing all the needs when it comes to city growth.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Candidate Castillo, same question in terms of how development can occur in a way that does not worsen traffic congestion.
Sure. As I speak to residents and concerned citizens, one of the biggest things that they talk to me about is the potholes in the city. I myself live in downtown Fort Worth, and I've experienced 3 flat tires consecutively within the span of a month. And each of those has been pretty costly, so I understand the concern among citizens. People have said, how is it that we're able to sustain a massive amount of growth, but we can't take care of the infrastructure in our city? So I believe that is the utmost importance for us to really streamline the resources and the revenues to make sure that our city can not only sustain this growth, but that we actually provide adequate resources. Take, for example, the power grids. I mean, these power lines, they have a 50-year time span, so their time span is coming up to an expiration. So we really need to make sure our street lights, our paved roads, the resources, the traffic, the roads, we have enough infrastructure available so that people can actually grow, live, and thrive here in the city of Fort Worth without experiencing these, just tragic disturbances.
Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Parker?
So across Fort Worth right now, we currently have over $3 billion in infrastructure projects ongoing, thanks to partnership with TxDOT, North Central Texas Council of Government, Tarrant County, and the city of Fort Worth. Most recently, voters approved a $560 million bond that 66% of it was really towards mobility infrastructure in the city of Fort Worth. There's been a big concentration, especially in the north, to remedy some of our inaction over a period of years and how quick growing we were, over 240,000 people north of 820. And I think our commitments in that bond election have going a long way. We were doing more than that, though. A half a penny of our property taxes went to the PAYGO fund, which is really to fund these capital projects ongoing throughout the year that include things like potholes, streetlights, pavement markings. And then I might just mention, if you do run across a pothole, I might encourage you to use the My Fort Worth app and submit it. You'll in real time get a response and let our TPW department know. We're investing in the right talent. We just hired a new TPW director, Lauren Prier, to run TPW, and she does this in focus with our other departments like the water department as well. These are complicated issues in any city, especially when you're fast growing like the city of Fort Worth. But I think long term, I know that our congestion levels maintain where they need to be, and our work with the RTC through the North Central Texas Council of Governments is keeping Fort Worth right where you need it to be in congestion and traffic control.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Smith?
Restate the question.
Sure. The question is, how can development in Fort Worth happen in such a way that does not cause or worsen traffic congestion?
Okay. I would say this: there has to be a check and balance on developers. Now, me saying that it's might rub a lot of people the wrong way, because I know developers, they don't want to feel like no one is against them, but there has to be a check and balance on developers. And I would say this to you all, the constituents, the ones who make elected officials' positions possible. I would encourage you all to get involved, to come down to council meetings to find out what's going on and what's being voted on. And it's not just the bonds that we vote on, as a ballot thing, but it's other things going on down at City Council that a lot of people are not aware of. But you have to come down. You have to come down and find out what's going on and what's being voted on and what's being passed. And I would say this, that I'm not against developers, but I'm just for stronger accountability for what they do and what they don't do.
All right. Thank you. We have one final question before we go to closing comments. And the final question is, the City Council is going to expand in May, as we know, adding 2 additional representatives to council. So with that in mind, what is the mayor's role in creating consensus but also making tough calls and letting the process play out. How would you approach that aspect of leadership as mayor?
We got to make sure we hold our city council, as mayor, you got to hold our city council accountable when it comes to addressing the needs and the concerns of the citizens in the city of Fort Worth in their districts and stuff like that. So if like the mayor, we got to hold them accountable. I don't care if you agree or disagree with them or nothing like that. You got to hold them accountable from day one and establish that their role of telling them, hey, this is right, this is wrong, and sometimes you're going to disagree, still agree. So if you hold them accountable from day one, that will fix any concerns or issues or address any issues or concerns from day one. So you got to make sure you hold all city council accountable from day one and make sure they're addressing the needs in the communities and the city and the district they represent.
All right, thank you. Candidate Castillo, same question in terms of the city council expanding to 2 more representatives, and what's the role that the mayor should play in creating consensus versus making tough calls and letting the process play out? How would you approach that aspect of leadership?
First of all, I would approach it by educating people and telling them about the common misconceptions. So our city is run by the city manager. So we are a city manager-heavy city as opposed to a mayor-heavy city, which is why our mayor makes about $30,000 a year compared to the city manager, who makes upwards of $350,000 a year. And he's one of the highest paid government officials here in Texas. So first part of that question is really educating people, letting them know what the actual role of the position is. And the second of all, it would be speaking to my constituents and speaking to my council members. So from talking to people who have come to me with their concerns, they think that spending additional money on 2 city council members is a waste of government resources. When, like you said, we need to fix our infrastructure. We need to pay our police officers more. We need to pay our firefighters more. We need to make sure that the east side of Fort Worth has equitable resources available. They're currently a food desert. They have no grocery stores there. So my concern would be allocating those resources to the proper places instead of putting 2 more people on council.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mayor Parker?
Sure, I think. Sure, I think it's a balance, right? And I've experienced this especially in the last year and a half. There are times when I think I've demonstrated where consensus was absolutely necessary, and actually the redistricting vote is reflected in that. There was a period of time early in the redistricting decision that it could have been I could have been the swing vote, number 5. I chose not to do that. We worked an additional 2 months to eventually get to a 9-0 vote, which is the map you're voting on today. I might remind you that the 2016 charter election, voters decided to add the 2 additional districts that went to City of Fort Worth voters. And I'm frankly deciding to be excited about it. First of all, you have some very large council districts. Councilmember Firestone in District 7 currently has one of the largest districts. It literally doubled in size over that 10-year period. So allowing our council members to have additional focus. And your job as mayor is really twofold. It's first to understand what it looks like to champion specific district initiatives and goals on behalf of your council members and balance the issues for them. Very seldom is it appropriate for you to step in and tell a council member the city will or will not do something. I think I've demonstrated that. I don't always agree with my fellow council members, but the important thing in Fort Worth is to continue to build consensus and collaboration wherever possible. And yes, there are times when the mayor has to make incredibly difficult decisions and follow your moral compass on behalf of residents, but we must maintain a certain level of respect and civility on the dais, which I think many people have heard me talk about over and over again, and it will continue to be a priority for me in my next 2 years. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Candidate Smith, your thoughts?
Question one more time.
Question is, the city council is going to expand to 2 additional representatives with this upcoming election. And with that in mind, what is the mayor's role in creating consensus when possible, but also making tough calls and letting the process play out? What's your approach to leadership in this regard?
My approach to leadership would be that first of listening, someone being transparent, being willing to accept opinions. You know, don't allow the position to get above the individual, the person, and don't forget about the people. That's most importantly. I feel like we will have 11 representatives. You know, it's already moving forward, but I'm more on the side of, again, the people. We need the people involved because this city cannot move forward without the people being involved. And this is about our livelihoods. I don't care what your background is. I don't, you know, care how well you're living, how well you're not living. This is about everyone's livelihood, and what affects one in Fort Worth affects all. So, again, 11, we're moving forward with 11. It's already, but again, just being willing to listen, and the people.
All right, thank you. We'll go to closing argument, or closing statements. It's not argument, sorry. Well, but we'll start with you, candidate Bowens. Thank you.
We close the arguments. Some of my main focus is public safety, community policing. We got to bridge the gap between the police and the neighborhoods. And so I'm really pushing that. Public transportation, we got to really push that. We got to really address the homeless rate at a properly in a fashion order. So we really got to do that. We really got to focus on more community-funded programs in the city of Fort Worth. We really got to focus on that. We got the money to do it. I don't hear we don't got it. We got the money to do it. Really more effective city-funded programs in the city of Fort Worth. And make sure we address the needs in the communities, our communities, and focus on Fort Worth as a whole. We can't move forward. That's the narrative. Move forward. We cannot move forward if we don't focus on Fort Worth as a whole. So if I'm elected mayor, I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna focus on Fort Worth as a whole. All communities. So if elected mayor, it's I really gonna focus on Fort Worth as a whole.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Candidate Castile, your closing statements?
Sure. One of my primary motivations for running for mayor was taking a look at the state of the economy just from a economic perspective. I have spent my career in real estate and mortgages. So from what we have experienced in the last couple of years, I mean, it's been devastating. People have truly have gone through financial upheavals. And once I put my name on the ballot, I had the opportunity to really canvass neighborhoods, speak to citizens, talk to people one-on-one, business owners, community leaders. And from what they're telling me is that they're pretty outraged with the current administration. Have you all been on social media lately? If you go on TikTok, if you go on Instagram, on Twitter, you can actually see what people think of our current administration, and it's pretty appalling. It is embarrassing that our city is trending on a national level for all the wrong reasons. So my primary motivation for running for mayor of Fort Worth is to put the city back in the proper position, to make sure that we are shining in the proper light, to bring accountability, transparency, and trust back to our city. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Parker, your closing comments?
Sure. I think in the next 2 years, I look forward to continue the work we've already started. I'll touch on a few things we've already talked about tonight. The first would be an emphasis on economic development that works for both small business, entrepreneurs, and the next corporate relocation that we bring to Fort Worth, Texas. It's about neighborhood investment and continuing our neighborhood improvement program that started in 2016 in Stop 6 and has been one of the most notable national attention issues we've seen in Fort Worth for all the right reasons, thanks to the Cavill Place redevelopment and the Stop 6 HUD grant that Mayor Price was able to secure under Secretary Carson's administration. We're also emphasizing education for all students across Fort Worth and understanding that those kids are our kids. From cradle to career, every single student in Fort Worth, Texas deserves high-quality education, and the city of Fort Worth is an excellent partner in that, and I know that I'm leading the way. In housing and homelessness, the city of Fort Worth has dedicated $26 million to permanent supportive housing to really focus on what it looks like to put housing first and make sure families are off the street. And 2 notable projects, both at Las Vegas Trail and the Seminary Project, taking 140 units and putting them back in the hands of families. And the last thing is all this takes a balance, smart fiscal decisions with your property tax dollars, and I'll continue those in the next 2 years. Thank you very much this evening for coming to listen.
All right. Thank you. And Candidate Smith, your final comments?
Yes, I would like to thank everyone for coming out. I would say, more importantly, my words may touch some, may move some. Some may say, nah, he doesn't talk like I want him to talk, But I have actions, My actions speak louder than my words. And I want to say this, I'm doing it from a place that's within my heart. I have no... as far as our current mayor and our council, I have no personal grudges with them, no vendettas or this, that, or the other, but I feel like we can do something different, And change, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt anyone. And the same thing I'm asking of you all, I asked of myself, just stay involved. Just stay involved. If you haven't been involved, get involved. Don't just vote. Just not voting and putting a stick on saying, yeah, y'all voted. It's our livelihoods, you all. This is our livelihood. So get involved. We have more candidates that are seeking office, and they're gonna need your support. They're gonna need your support to know that, hey, they didn't just vote for me, but they're holding my feet to the fire. And if I could pick somebody's brain, I'd pick former Mayor Price's brain. She did it for 10 years, but thank y'all.
Well, thank you to all the candidates. Let's give them a round of applause. And I'll echo what candidate Smith said. I mean, the most important thing is to get involved, right? To get out and vote. So thank you for that. And you'll hear us as a nonpartisan news organization say that over and over. We'll never tell you how to vote, but we will tell you to go vote, right? So thank you so much. And we're going to let their candidates get going, and we're going to go to District 4 next, and then 7, and then 11. So don't go away, but if the candidates for District 4 can come up, we'll get things reset that way. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. that we're opposing tonight came from our local government accountability reporters, Emily and Rachel, who talked with a lot of our audience and with neighborhood associations, which is particularly important when we're talking about district races, and also with our partners at Steer Fort Worth. So we appreciate it. Two candidates here, so we can move through a little more quickly than with 5, but we appreciate both the candidates in District 4. This is the race in which incumbent Alan Blaylock decided to move in District 10, so there is not an incumbent in this race. We have in this race Charles Lauersdorf and Teresa Ramirez Gonzalez. We appreciate both of you being here, and we'll start with 1-minute introductions. So alphabetically, you get to go first, candidate Lauersdorf.
Awesome. Well, my name is Charlie Lauersdorf. I'm a married father of 6, God-fearing man. Spent nearly 2 decades in the United States Marine Corps now. I'm a Tarrant County CASA volunteer. I'm a Freemason, and most importantly, a TCU grad and a barbecue extraordinaire, if I may say so myself. I'm running because I feel like we have a lot at stake here in Fort Worth. I believe, looking at how other big cities have grown and seeing what they've gotten, how out of focus they've become, my belief is we need to keep City Council focused on the issues that actually matter and not just the issues you hear in the news. We can all agree there's nothing sexy about potholes or street infrastructure or even lights that turn purple. However, those are all things that we need to focus on here in the city. And we need a City Council that has a backbone who's willing to stand up for that and also stand up for what's right for the right reasons. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now opening statements from candidate Ramirez Gonzalez.
My name is Teresa Ramirez. I'm running for District 4, and I want to thank everyone for being out here and all our supporters and everyone else that would like to come as well. I just want to say that I've been doing this a long time. I've seen the changes and the challenges that we have faced in District 4, and I've been there for quite a while. I have our neighborhood association president right there, Mr. Lance Griggs. So we have been doing a lot of work with our elected leaders, and I'm ready to continue it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you both. We'll jump right into the questions. The first one, I think transportation seems to be a theme with some of our audience, but commute times on I-35 can take up to an hour and a half to get from the core of the city to the Alliance Job Center during peak commute hours. How can the city improve mobility to job centers in the Alliance area and promote smart residential growth in North Fort Worth?
There we go. Well, first of all, I believe in positive growth, and I believe we need to do it responsibly. I think whenever it comes to traffic on the highways, I think our city leaders need to be engaged with our TxDOT employees and staff and leadership there to make sure that we're getting the resources we need, especially in North Fort Worth. I mean, we hear a lot of talk about other parts of Fort Worth, but we also hear how many jobs we have growing in North Fort Worth. Well, we need to make sure that we have voice on council that's going to make sure we do get those resources. And I look forward to working with Alan Blaylock to ensure that we are talking to those folks at TxDOT to ensure that the developers that are growing in that area, we're all doing it responsibly. We're all doing it in a way that makes sense. I mean, the roads that we already have in place, we need to ensure that we're taking care of those to ease that traffic in the north area. And then we need to make sure that TxDOT does what they're supposed to do as far as providing us resources where we need them the most, which is in the north.
All right, thank you. I'll repeat the question, candidate Ramirez. Commute times on I-35 can take up to an hour and a half to get to the core of from the core of the city to the Alliance Job Center during peak commute hours. How can the city improve mobility to job centers in the Alliance area and promote smart residential growth in North Fort Worth?
Well, I do believe I come from a bigger city, Houston, Texas, and we still haven't got it right there. So I think this is going to be a long-term working process, and we're going to do it. And I think our TxDOT is doing pretty well in where they're at and where we have begun, and we can move that forward according to how we see City of Fort Worth. I think there's other issues that are slightly more important. We have a juvenile detention center that's over capacity, and it's privately owned. So we need to find out what we're going to do about mental health. And I think infrastructure is going to be a long term. We're going to keep looking at it, and we're going to keep working on it.
All right, thank you. Next question is the most recent class of city council members have been criticized by some for restricting opportunities to speak at council meetings. How would you promote public participation while still dealing with the concern that a few specific people are dominating the public comment period?
And I think I know exactly who you're talking about on that one, having watched numerous city council meetings. And I think transparency is going to be the first and foremost one of the most important responsibilities of the city council and city staff, and city manager, and the mayor. I mean, our job is to serve the people that we work for, who elected us in the first place. So if we're not listening to them in a responsible manner, then what's it all for anyways? I do think you have to do it in a pragmatic, common sense approach. I mean, as nice as it would be to listen to everyone who came before city council to speak, I think that's going to be really difficult. So I think a system where you have they sign up well before time, and then those are approved to speak, especially new time speakers should be heard. If you have the same voice that keeps coming back time and time again, and all they have is just simply attacks, and they're not really talking about anything constructively, then I think we need to prioritize those who actually have something to say, because otherwise we spend all that time listening to the same things over and over. And one of the other things you have to consider too is city council. We had that one meeting on that one Tuesday. And so, we're spending our time up there as well, and so we need to make sure that we're hearing from as many people as we can in a common sense way.
All right, thank you. Candidate Ramirez?
Did you want to repeat the question?
Yes, I will. How would you promote public participation while still dealing with the concern that a few specific people are dominating the public comment period?
The most important part, as your city council person, woman, I will make sure that I hear everyone, even if I do not agree with them. They get their 3 minutes, they don't get their mic turned off, and I do not get my feelings hurt. I raised 5 babies, and they're all wonderful children, and I raised them the right way. I'm the daughter of a farmer's daughter, and she taught me to do the right thing. And I don't think we could exclude anyone or talk down to anyone. If someone's irate, I think we should just listen to them. And I think if they're hurt, we should listen to why they're hurt. I do know that there is a 90-plus page report on the investigation of our police department. And I support my police, but I will not support any political organization. I'm only true to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is, how important do you feel public transportation options are in providing job access and opportunity in a growing and diverse community? So how important, your thoughts on public transportation in providing job access and opportunity?
Well, I think it's incredibly important, especially someone mentioned earlier how many jobs there are in North Fort Worth, and having folks that live all over Fort Worth having a way to get to and from work. However, I also believe that we need to do it in a responsible manner. I mean, if we have buses that are empty all the time where the only person on it is the driver, then we need to take a better look at it and see if we actually need them in that area and reallocate resources to where they are needed. I don't believe that we should be using taxpayer dollars to fund these empty buses to and from. I mean, certainly, I know everyone in this room can probably attest to how much the gas prices are. Well, guess what? We're all paying for those, pay for the gas in those buses. So I think whenever we work with our partners at TM, we need to make sure that they're doing it in a responsible manner and find ways and creative ways and resourceful ways of making sure that we have opportunities to get folks to and from where they need to go if they don't have transportation of their own.
All right, thank you. And candidate Ramirez, question is, how important do you feel public transportation options are in providing job access and opportunity in a growing and diverse community?
Well, North Alliance, I can say that we have purchased 250,000 acres, and we have already rezoned it, so we're going to have a lot of nice opportunities. My husband always says if somebody isn't working in Fort Worth, it's because they don't want to work. We are 12th largest city, and we're one of the fastest growing cities. So definitely we're going to need something to really move forward. I'm totally positive in going in that way because we're going to have to start learning how to use all these wonderful opportunities that Alliance Airport is going to be offering that we have with Hillwood and Associates. So of course we're going to move that forward.
All right, thank you. And we have one more question before we go to closing statements. District 4 is home to multiple school districts, such as Keller ISD and Fort Worth ISD, of course. How should the city engage with school districts in Fort Worth to support students and ensure success in and out of the classroom? What's the city's role in public education?
Well, it's a partnership, right? It's not just city council. It's city council with our school districts. It's with our water boards. It's with everyone who has a stake in our community, and that includes everyone in this room as well. So I think, whenever you look at your city council, they should be talking to the other school boards that are out there, finding out what they're doing, what's working for them and what's not. I mean, collectively, if we bring everyone together in the same room, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, if we're all in it for the right reasons, then I think we can keep moving Fort Worth in the direction it's going, which I think is in a positive direction.
All right. Candidate Ramirez, the same question is District 4 is home to multiple school districts such as Keller ISD and Fort Worth ISD. How should the city engage with school districts in Fort Worth to support students and ensure success in and out of the classroom?
Well, reading, math, and language skills are most important to me. I raised my 5 children with education first, family, and faith. I'm a Christian. I'm a conservative. I am a Republican that is going to be able to work with everyone. I've spoke to Nettles, and I'm able to work with Mr. Nettles. But the most important part of the school districts is our suicide. Our suicide is up 300%. As of 2019, I contacted Fort Worth, and I spoke to Mr. Gonzalez, the city secretary, because I wasn't getting anywhere with our city council or anyone else. It was getting very dire. And what Robert did is he sent my number to Parks and Recreation Director, Mr. Zavala, and we started to work and talk. He called me in 30 minutes. They told me he called me in 2 days. When he called me in 30 minutes, he didn't see the other side of the phone. I was pouring down. The waterworks came. I found an outlet. Someone was going to help me. Mr. Zavala said, Teresa, I'm going to contact Keller ISD. I'm going to open up those gyms after school. I'm going to bring hope back by staffing it. The teachers aren't going to have to be doing that. So I'm going to move forward with Mr. Zavala in doing that. I'm going to put more caseworkers that are qualified to speak to these babies that we leave with them for 8+ hours a day. That's what I'm going to do.
All right, thank you. All right, and we're going to go right to closing statements. You get to go first.
All right, listen, as a father of 6, there's one thing that's really important to me, and that's public safety. We can all agree it doesn't matter how nice our streets are, how low our taxes may be. If our streets aren't safe and our first responders aren't getting the resources they need to effectively do their job, I don't think any of this matters. I don't think that public transportation matters. I don't think our roads matter. The purple lights, none of it matters if we're not taking care of our first responders. So that's why I'm proud to have the support from the Fort Worth Police, from the Fort Worth Fire, and others. So I think at the end of the day, you should be able to work with everyone across the aisle. Technically, this is a nonpartisan position, so we shouldn't be looking at a Republican or Democrat or Independent or anything else. We should be able to work with everyone and be able to say, hey, let's come up with a pragmatic, common sense approach to the problems that Fort Worth faces. As the 12th largest city, we're going to have growing problems. But as long as we handle them together and not worry about fighting or focusing on the issues you're going to read in Fox News or CNN, I think we need to stay focused. As someone who's deployed 8 times, 7 of which were voluntary, and only wounded once, thankfully, I'm the type of guy you could see. I'm not afraid to fight, and I'm not afraid to stand up for what I believe in and what I believe our district and what our city believes in. So once you elect me to city council, I'm going to get worked right away, and I'm not going to back down to whatever those outside influences are. I'm going to be here for Fort Worth, in Fort Worth. Thank you.
All right. And candidate Ramirez, your closing statement.
I want to thank my opponent here for serving our country and also being here with us today now that it matters. We're looking at a lot of intense situations in District 4. And when our councilman in 2000...
So I was having one.
You're doing a great job.
It's a great place.
District 7, and we have 3 candidates for District 7. Incumbent council member Leonard Firestone announced he wasn't going to seek re-election. So these are all 3 challengers for that position. And it's because of the live stream, and I'll say as we repeat that we're going in sort of alphabetical order. And so when you have a name that starts with B, you get to go first. Well, my name starts with C. I'm Chris Cobbler, so I can relate to that too. So the candidates for District 7 are Caleb Beckholm? Did I say that right? Macy Hill and Jason Ellis. So we'll go first with Caleb. You can get to start with opening statements. You have a minute, and then we'll go into questions after each of you get a minute for opening statements.
Okay, yeah. I am Caleb Backholm, and it's spelled like the capital of Sweden, Stockholm. You can kind of remember it that way. It's a good old Swedish name. And I grew up in a somewhat Swedish town, actually on the coast of Washington, in a house of a preacher's son with two siblings, and went to college in Northwestern in Minnesota. Met my wife there, and she's here. We have 3 kids, and after the kids got a little bit older, we moved down here to Fort Worth and really enjoyed the area and came here intentionally because of what the area is like. And frankly, probably the biggest reason that I'm running for office here is because growing up in that area, I've seen what bad politics, particularly bad city politics, will do to a city. Seeing what's happened to the crime rate, the homeless rate, what businesses have to try to go through to operate. And now we're here, and I want to make sure that what has happened up there doesn't happen down here in the city. And so that's why I'm running for Fort Worth City Council.
All right, thank you. Candidate Jason Ellis?
My name is Jason Ellis. I was born and raised right here in Texas. I joined the military when I was 18, deployed to Iraq on the sniper team. After I got out of the military, I went back to Iraq, worked for a private security company. The last position I held there was I was the director of logistics. I was over 400 personnel over in Iraq. When I came back to Texas, I started a plumbing company, and we built that up. In 3 short years, we were grossing over $1 million in sales. I eventually sold that company, and I stayed on as a partner where I run operations today. I share all these things with you because my whole life has been geared towards service and serving people. The reason I'm running for city council is I want to actually work on the things that affect our everyday lives. The things that we affect, Northwest Fort Worth, for instance, is our infrastructure. But I'm willing to get my hands dirty, roll up my sleeves. I'm a big believer in leading from the front and leading by example.
Thank you. Candidate Macy Hill?
Hi, my name is Macy Hill. I've been married to my husband, James, for 20 years. We have 2 sons, one's 14, one's 16. We're raising them with the same strong work ethic that we were raised with. I grew up in Port Neches, Texas, small town girl. Started working at 12 years old in my grandfather's grocery store, stocking shelves. We were never allowed to move up to cashier. You stayed stocking shelves, so you understood what the hard work was, and did that all through high school. I came to Fort Worth, went to TCU, have my undergraduate degree from TCU, have a master's of liberal art, and a master's of business administration from TCU. Currently, I'm the president of Tailwind Philanthropic Advisors. I work with family foundations to invest their money in nonprofits in North Texas. Everything from early childhood to homelessness to public policy. So I understand intimately the needs of the community and what we need to do to fill the gaps. So this was really a natural transition for me from moving into city council candidate role. I understand the issues, and I'm passionate about being an advocate for our neighbors and community.
All right, thank you. We'll move right into the first question. As it was said earlier, some of these questions came through neighborhood associations, and this first one does as well. It focuses on historic Lake Worth, which continues to be a popular recreational destination. And Leslie Pinkard of North Lake Worth Neighborhood Association and Evelyn Mulder of East Lake Worth Neighborhood Association are both asking, they want to know what protections you'd put in place to protect green space and parks around Lake Worth. So your thoughts on how you can protect the space around Lake Worth.
Sure. This is not a question that's come up a lot for me on the campaign so far, but I would say that what it does tie into is the quality of life in the neighborhood. Like, we moved to this neighborhood intentionally because of the style of neighborhood it is and the feel that it has. Even though it's close to downtown, a big city of Fort Worth, it's also a bit outside, and it feels more remote. And that is an important thing, and I can see why they asked the question, because they don't want to lose what they moved here for, or maybe they even grew up in it. Either way, they don't want to lose what they're here for. And I think it's important to have some of that. As we grow and as the city develops and the areas around the city develop, we do want to have areas that remind us that it's a little bit different than some of the really big cities out there, and to keep those protected, and so they don't just develop, but rather that you have green spaces, you have areas where it brings you back to nature. And I think that's an important thing. I'd want to see that continue the quality of life that we already have here in Fort Worth.
All right, Candidate Ellis, just briefly restate the question. What protections would you put in place to preserve green space and parks around Lake Worth?
So I love the outdoors. I love hiking. I have children. We actually utilize in District 7, we actually have one of the largest nature centers in District 7 as well. We love it. I think we should protect it, right? So part of a city is as long as we can create a place that is a clean, safe city, people want to move here. We've done a great job. We're one of the largest cities. And we got to keep it that way. But part of keeping a clean and safe city is also having a place why families want to move there. That means school districts. That means green spaces, right? So absolutely, I'm going to do everything I can to protect that.
Great, thank you. Candidate Hill?
Well, Lake Worth it's a historical asset for the city of Fort Worth. The city has continued to grow around the lake, and I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we protect it. I've visited with several members of neighborhood associations in that area, and they're very concerned about the growth that we have moving into Fort Worth and losing the green space and losing the value that we have around Lake Worth.
All right, thank you. We'll go right to the next question, another neighborhood association question. This focuses on the southwest portion of District 7, which is experiencing massive growth. And the question centers on the concern about traffic mobility and roadway safety. Gary Hogan of Chapel Creek Neighborhood Association wants to know how you propose to help Fort Worth be more proactive to growth. How do we get ahead of that growth curve?
I guess I would address that by talking about the streets. As far as being proactive, that's what I hear most often is the streets that we are using were built a long time ago when it was a lot of longhorn cattle, or a lot more longhorn cattle and a lot fewer houses. And now there's still some cattle, but there's a lot more houses around, which means there's a lot more cars around too. And so being able to address it where people are able to drive to where they need to be and walk to where they need to be too. I'm concerned about sidewalks. That's an issue in a couple of areas where it's just dangerous to get around because of so much traffic, higher speed, no sidewalks. But to be able to do that in advance when developments are coming in, and you have to prioritize it. I think that's one of the 2 or 3 big priorities in the city is really having streets that can be driven, that are wide enough to handle the traffic that we have, and that can be done so safely. And so that's a great question, and I think it's important that we focus on that and really just make it one of the top priorities of the city.
All right. Candidate Ellis, restate the question briefly. How do you propose to help Fort Worth be more proactive to growth?
Yeah, so we slow down development. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But the problem is if we don't slow down development, our infrastructure is so far behind right now, it's going to get to a point where we won't even have the opportunity to say we want more development, right? So focus on the infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I mean more than just roads, right? We mean we're power grid. We mean the water. I'm a plumber, right? Like I'm a plumbing company. I own a plumbing company. We're talking about sewer treatment plants. There's a lot that goes into the infrastructure, and it's taking a hinder. Our infrastructure is taking a huge hit. So if we have to, we need to slow down infrastructure to catch up, or I'm sorry, slow down the development to catch up on our infrastructure. I think that's huge important. You know, one of the things in Northwest is our response time with police, fire, and EMS. It's not necessarily their fault. There's so much traffic in Northwest Fort Worth because of all the new development. It's not necessarily the police's fault that they can't get there on time or their response times are high. It's because there's so much traffic on the road. So I think we focus on the infrastructure even if we have to slow down the development.
All right. Same question, Candidate Hill?
Well, first and foremost, I think the city's responsibility is to take care of the buildings that we have, the streets that we have, and make sure they're up and running and doing the right thing for our community, making sure that people can get to and from their place of work, that police and fire can get where they need to get appropriately and efficiently. It's a complicated question because people are coming. We can't stop the growth. We can't stop.
We can slow it down, though.
We can't stop people coming in from California, New York, Florida. People love us here, and that's something we're going to have to deal with. But we have to do it in a smart fashion. We have to work with everybody. We have to work with developers. We have to work with the city. We have to work with the infrastructure issues. There's so many development departments, so many departments in development. We're talking not just about streets, but we're talking about water and sewer and making sure all of that's planned, but we have to be smart about that as we move forward.
All right, thank you. The next question, and I just want to sort of restate the rules of the forum. This is not one in which we have rebuttals, a rebuttal period, although if we have a runoff, we'll set up our debate.
I feel like you're picking on me. Is that kind of room? I'm just kidding. Chris, you're doing a great job, Chris.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is also from a neighborhood association, Margaret Johnson of the River District Alliance. She asked a question that focuses on how city council developers often promise specific things to the zoning commission and city council to get their proposal approved, such as involving neighbors in the design process. The question is, what strategies will you use to ensure developers follow through with those promises? How do you make sure the promises that are made in the approval process actually get carried through when the project goes to completion?
Following up, you find out what the plan was in advance, and you monitor it as they go. I guess that's pretty much the only way to do that is to make sure that happens. I guess you could put in big fines at the end if it doesn't. That sometimes can be effective, but I would definitely prefer to not do that if you can help it, unless it's egregious. But yeah, just following up with them, making sure they're following the plans that they had laid out. There's an agreement in building, particularly if we want to avoid really high-density construction, which is something that I do want to do, particularly in the north part of the city. I feel like the high-density construction is a detriment to the area, at least if there's very much of it. And so making sure that we have the construction that is going to be more of the family-style neighborhood that the area is already built like, and to continue that feel going on is an important thing. And that's what I would try to make sure happens, and make sure that those who are saying, yeah, this is how we're going to build it, make sure they actually stick to it, and it comes out the way that everyone was expecting.
All right, thank you. Thank you. And I'll also restate the rules of the forum here, that we're all here to hear the candidates, not to share our opinions.
I don't give woke answers, though,
All right, but-
just so you know.
all right.
All right.
All right. Next, to restate the question for candidate Ellis, what strategies would you use to ensure developers follow through with their promises that they make in getting approval in the design process and the early process for the zoning commission?
So it's accountability. I own a plumbing company. I can't go from A to B until the city approves it. It's that simple, right? So when I go do an inspection or I pull a permit on a property or anything else, or if I'm going to do some work, I have to get approval before I can go to the next step. It's just that easy. Accountability from the city. So if we want to worry about the development and if they're going to follow through on anything that they promise us, it's accountability, making sure that we're coming in, we're checking it and saying, okay, we're checking off, now we can go to the next step, and we're going to allow you to do the next thing. It's that easy. Accountability.
Thank you. Same question, candidate Hill?
My answer is going to be very similar to Mr. Ellis, is accountability, but the city does have processes to go through. And we do need to hold these developers and hold them to the plans that they put in front of the city. And I think it's important that we make sure that the neighborhoods are working and talking to these people as we have developers that are coming in, have conversations, make sure everybody's on the same page and understand. And I think a lot of developers are very respectful of the neighborhoods. I think there's a couple one-offs where things have gone awry or the expectation level was a little bit different. But I think it's part of, we were talking about the open comment portion at City Council. That's that time where you can come in and talk about the developments coming in, the main issues. Talk to your City Council people. Have open conversations with them. That's why you want to have people that are responsible, that are looking for business-minded decisions and solutions. So it's not just these grand ideas that are put into play and that really affect people and have unintended, thank you, consequences. So again, it does go back to accountability and conversation with the neighborhood and City Council.
All right. Thank you. We're going to go to the final question before we go to closing statements, and that is that Fort Worth, as we know, is often called the home of cowboys and culture, and District 7 has a variety of institutions that sort of reflect that. The question then is, how do you plan to use your vote on the council to support the arts community in Fort Worth and in District 7?
Yeah, Fort Worth, the feel of the city as the gateway of the West, or the Cowtown, and how different it is from Dallas. Just so you guys know, people from outside this area think Dallas and Fort Worth are the same place. And then you show up here, and it's like Dallas and Fort Worth are about as far apart as they could be without being far apart. And so, yes, Fort Worth has a unique culture to it that's different from most of the big cities in the country, and different than even Dallas, just 30 miles to the east. And I think it's important to preserve that and keep that going, because that a lot of people come here and stay here because they like the culture of it. And so I would encourage that just by telling people this is how it is. This is how the culture is, and the feel of the gateway to the west here with Cowtown and all of that, and really keep that going. I would encourage people to be active in that as much as they possibly can and really enjoy what Fort Worth brings to all the residents here. I think it's a great thing.
And candidate Ellis, just to restate the question, how do you plan to use your vote on the council to support the arts community in Fort Worth and District 7?
So I love Fort Worth. I love this city. I live here for a reason. This is where I raise my family. I go to work and I play and everything else. I love the culture. Anybody who comes to Fort Worth experiences the culture. They know the culture. I don't want to spend any money on the culture. You can come to Fort Worth and know that. I want cheaper property tax. Does anybody else out here want cheaper property tax? It's ridiculous. You know, like, so let's talk about responsible budget. You want to talk about culture? Let's talk about responsible budget and spending the money in the right places. I believe in our culture. It's here. That's great. I'm definitely all about that, but I want to save money. I don't want to spend any money on something like that.
All right. Candidate Hill, same question?
I think what we're really talking about is economic development. So the arts, our cultural system, that's what brings tourists here. Did you know that the Cowtown Marathon brings $10.5 million for 2 weekends? People come to visit the art. They come here to see the culture. Now we have the Drover. We have this whole experience in the stockyards. We even know that people come, District 7 has the Kimball. It has the Cowgirl Museum, which is amazing. We have the stock show and rodeo. All of that, to me, falls under a great public-private partnership. We have philanthropic dollars that help fund it. It's our job to help maintain the streets, the infrastructure to drive tourism, and that drives economic development, and that drives, really the quality of life that we have in Fort Worth.
All right, we'll go right to a minute for closing statements. Go ahead, candidate.
All right. Well, I think what sets me apart in this race is the independent voice and the history I have of working for goals that are important in the city. The first campaign I ever worked on was in 1992, and I've been on the school board 2 different times since then. I've been elected as a delegate to the State Republican Convention. I've worked a lot of times with a lot of people to try to bring about the change and preserve things that really matter to me politically. And I believe that's what I bring here, is the ability to stand strong and be an independent voice when the pressure comes, because it does, whether it's from establishment situations or whether it's from politics that I strongly disagree with and they push back. I've got the history showing that I'm able to stand strong and represent the area and represent the 7th District very well, keeping our property taxes down. I've got a specific plan on my website that talks about that, how we could actually lower the taxes. And so I believe you'll find a really good representative in me if you want somebody that can stand strong and be independent, and I hope you vote for me. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And candidate Ellis, a minute for closing.
I'm going to go a little off script here, okay? I'm going to say some things that normally a politician wouldn't say. And these guys that are sitting up here, you guys have a very difficult choice to make. These are really 3 good candidates up here. I'm not gonna lie. We got Macy, we got Caleb. You guys are great. Y'all have a very, very tough choice to make. And I admire you guys for running, because it's not easy to be up here. It's not easy to run a race, right? It's very difficult. But at the end of the day, it sounds like a lot of our values align. A lot of our things align, it sounds like. There's no secret. We're all Republicans up here. We all have R's behind our name, right? So it's going to be a very tough choice for everyone out there. But at the end of the day, like I said, I want to make sure I work for the people. I want to work on the things that actually affect our everyday lives. Forget about I don't want this for the title. I don't care about ribbon cuttings or rubbing elbows or anything else. I just want the best for Fort Worth, and I want the best for District 7. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And candidate Hill, final comments?
First of all, thank you all for coming out on a Wednesday evening. I know it's hard. I'm really focused on the quality of life in Fort Worth. I think it's important that public safety is my #1 priority. I'm endorsed by the Fort Worth Firefighters Association, the Fort Worth Police Association. I want to make sure they have the right resources they need to protect us, to be efficient with their time, effective with the resources they have. Infrastructure, development, those are all important issues, property tax. I think that we really need to focus on, the theme is quality of life and who's going to represent the communities and the neighbors. I want to be an advocate. I want to be a fighter at City Hall. I want to be able to listen and understand what's happening. I live in a different neighborhood than a lot of my other District 7 neighbors. And so what happens in your neighborhood is extremely different than what happens in mine. And so being able to have open conversation, being accessible, and being an advocate for you, that's my goal.
All right. Thank you. Let's give all the candidates a round of applause. And we're going to take a short break and come back with District 11. And I can't say it enough for myself and for the Fort Worth Report and our partners, KRA and Steer Fort Worth. We really salute all the candidates who choose to give themselves to public service. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Next time. So we'll get going. We're now going into District 11, which is a new district, one of the new districts we mentioned. So there are 5 candidates running in alphabetical order here, although we've only got 4 right now, right? All right. So we've got Ricardo Avitia, we've got Rick Herring, and then Jeanette Martinez, and Tara Maldonado Wilson. All right. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. As before, we'll have a minute for opening statements, and then we'll go into questions. So, Mr. Avitia, you get to start.
Hello and
I think you're on.
good evening, everybody. My name is Ricardo Avitia.
Everybody hear that? Just no. Okay, the mic.
Closer to the mic. The black microphones are the ones working, so y'all gonna have to pass it around because we can't hear anything on those red covered mics.
Can you hear this?
Here, you can hold mine too if you want. There you go. I'm not saying anything.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Ricardo Avitia. I'm a first-generation American. I'm a son of migrant parents. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran, and I'm a product of Fort Worth ISD. I wholeheartedly believe that we need working-class representation on city council. We need a different perspective, looking down at the discussions and decisions being made on our everyday lives. I'm the only candidate on this particular district that has construction management experience. Therefore, I bring that perspective to City Council with the bidding process, the project management process, and everything in between, as well as value engineering. Therefore, I strongly urge you to research yourselves, the candidates out here, and vote for Ricardo Avitia come May 6th. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next, candidate Harry.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Rick Herring, and I am running for City Council, District 11. I'm a native of Fort Worth. I was born and raised in the Riverside community where I still live. I went through Fort Worth Public Schools. I was raised in a family with a single mom, and we were a working class family. After I went through schools, I put myself through Texas Wesleyan, the first college graduate in my family. And later, after I was out of college, in my mid-20s, I began being active in my local neighborhood association, which was the Oakhurst Neighborhood Association. I saw some things in my community I didn't like, so I wanted to work on them and work with like-minded people. And years after that, I moved a few blocks away to the Carter Riverside neighborhood, where I now reside, and I'm currently the president of our neighborhood association there. But through all those years, the past 30-plus years, I've had an opportunity to serve on zoning commission, plan commission, other Fort Worth committees and commissions, and have a broad and vast background in city issues, which make me feel like I'm the best candidate to serve in this role. I'm looking forward to serving the residents of new District 11.
All right. Thank you. And candidate Martinez, your opening statements.
Good evening. My name is Jeanette Martinez. I am a Fort Worth native. I am a mom. I am a wife. I have both lived and worked in both South and East Fort Worth. I'm sorry, can y'all hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. I am a product of the Fort Worth ISD. I pursued my higher education first at TCC, later transferring to Texas Wesleyan. I most recently earned my master's in public administration. I've been a part of local government for over 10 years. I have had the privilege of serving under the leadership of Commissioner Roy Charles Brooks, Tarrant County Precinct 1. I have served on several city, county, and nonprofit boards. I've served on the Fort Worth City Community Action Partners Advisory Council, where we work with families to provide them resources and services that they need to become self-sufficient. I'm the vice chair of the Girl Scouts of the Texas-Oklahoma Plains. I am also on the board of Family Pathfinders, who works with families and the reentry population to get them financial literacy and mentoring so that they can become self-sufficient. I am experienced, I am educated, and I am the best candidate for this position.
All right. Thank you. And candidate Maldonado Wilson, your opening statements.
Yes, hi, I'm Tara Maldonado Wilson. I'm an ER trauma nurse, a mother of 3, and a queer Latina. I'm running for city council because when I went down to City Hall in 2019, after the death of Tatiana Jefferson, I was locked out of City Hall. I know that residents in East the east side and south side of District 11 feel forgotten and left out of decision-making. I'm running to bring investment to our communities, whether that's to give us vibrant neighborhoods that are walkable, to good roads, or bring good living wage payable jobs to the east and south side. I'm running to give you inclusive leadership. That means centering your voices at the center of decision-making and the most impactful decisions that would impact your streets and neighborhoods. And I'm running to bring community care, to bring vital resources, and to fill the gaps where our families and our neighborhoods are direly missing.
Thank you. We'll go right into questions. This first question comes from Carol Peters with the West Meadowbrook Neighborhood Association, and that is, she's concerned about predatory investors in residential areas. How will you ensure neighborhoods in District 11 are protected from those investors? All right, candidate Avidia, you get to start. Here we go. We're gonna get you in the mic. Sorry.
Excellent question. Thank you. We do know that in Tarrant County, 50% of properties purchased in 2022 were purchased by investors and developers. And the subdivisions that are currently being approved and built outside of the loop are also for-rent subdivisions. So there is definitely an issue with that, especially as we have a growing population in Fort Worth. I am one of the founders of Hempio No Se Vende, and we actually just received notice today of the city of Fort Worth, well, actually the developer rescinding their application for a zoning case ZC 22-218 on Hemp Hill and Morningside because we do not appreciate the disrespect that comes to our community when they are trying to develop and invest. We have to understand that we as property owners are also investors and developers, and we are very worthy and capable and willing to develop our neighborhood. Thank you all very much.
All right, thank you. Candidate Herring, just to restate the question briefly, how will you ensure District 11 neighborhoods are protected from predatory investors?
Well, thank you. This is a very germane issue for District 11 because it's a district made up of working class and middle class neighborhoods. And I believe the best way to protect those neighborhoods from predatory investors and other activity is to strengthen those neighborhoods, protect them, help them to grow, help them to develop the way they want to, and create strong neighborhoods. I'm a firm advocate of the neighborhood association concept, and I want to work to strengthen our neighborhood associations throughout District 11. But along with that, predatory investors may come in all different forms, and it could be in the form of short-term rentals, which we don't know till they're there. It could be in other ways. But I believe in strengthening neighborhoods is the best way to prevent this type of activity.
All right. Thank you. And candidate Martinez, do you need me to repeat the question, or are you ready to go?
I think I'm ready.
Okay.
So protecting the integrity of our neighborhoods is going to be one of the top priorities while I'm in office. I believe that communication is key, bringing in all the stakeholders, the neighborhoods, the neighborhood associations, those individuals that are leaders in the community that may not be part of the neighborhood associations, maybe religious organizations, and just working with them to be vigilant of any type of predatory development that may be out there. That could be pawn shops, that could be game rooms. We don't want District 11 to be the dumping ground of these undesirable developments. So staying vigilant, working with the people, communicating, and just being there for them and fighting for them every day.
All right. Candidate Maldonado Wilson?
Yeah, what I hear from that question is asking about how a lot of homeowners on the east and south side get cold called about trying to buy their homes from them, or they target them thinking that maybe they have a struggling tax bill, or maybe they're behind on something like that. So I think that it's important that we're educating people and letting them know about community block grants and other resources that they have so that they can stay in their homes, so that they're not becoming a target of these predatory home buyers or corporate entities that are trying to come in and get these homes at, bottom dollar and flip them for whether it be short-term rental or whatever you say. We have a lot of retirees in District 11. We have a lot of up-and-coming young families. We have a lot of, our average age is 32. And right now, home ownership is shut out to to them. So helping them also understand how to get into some homes that could be targets of predatory, but maybe making them first-time home buyers and connecting them to those types of education and services.
All right, our next question comes from Rebecca Smith with the Glen Park Neighborhood Association. She says there are areas along Renaissance Square in East Barry that are ripe for development, and she wants to know how you will bring new businesses, jobs, and revenue to the community. Councilman, or candidate Vidya?
I think you had it right.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, we have to understand, yes, it is ripe. It's right at 287 in Barry. There's a beautiful view of downtown from there as well, at the corner of 287 and Barry if you look towards the north. And we have to also understand that views mean luxury and luxury means money. So when we're talking about development, we also have to inform our community members and have a consensus of what we want as a part of development. We also have to let them know about the TIF that's coming to that district from 287 and Barry all the way to 35, which is also going to raise property taxes immensely. And who's going to be able to, who's going to organize that particular TIF? Who's going to be in charge of it? That's another question we have to ask ourselves. So these are questions that we're not asking ourselves, that we're not talking about. It's going to be very important to be informed. Please vote for Ricardo Vidya, May 6th. Thank you very much.
All right. Candidate Herring, how will you bring new businesses, jobs, and revenue to the community?
Well, first of all, I would want to talk to the residents in the community and see what they want. All too often, they're not consulted about what types of developments they want for their area. But along with that, communication with the neighborhood and the stakeholders, I would work with those organizations that have been set up specifically to monitor and to attract development, such as Southeast Fort Worth, Inc., the Black Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce, the Renaissance Heights Development Corporation, and make sure that they are bringing all stakeholders to the table, and also making sure that any outside developers that are coming are also looking to speak with the neighbors and see what they want. And as a council person, that would be one of my key features, is to get out in front and to let the neighbors know what is coming so they can be prepared and work with those developers. And I always say to be forewarned is to be forearmed. Information is key, and I believe that neighbors and those in the community should know what's coming before they get a notice from the zoning commission saying, hey, this is on the docket in 2 weeks.
All right. Candidate Martinez, how will you bring new businesses, jobs, and revenue to the community?
Well, I would go to the community to get an idea of what type of development they'd like to see, but also when development is already identified, working with all stakeholders, bringing everybody to the table, because it's important that we keep everybody a part of the discussion. Then there is no, then they can say that everybody had the input. But also when the project has already started, maintaining those conversations, and when the project has ended, maintaining that relationship so that if issues do come up, you can address those as they come up, and it can be a relationship that will continue and would be successful throughout the lifetime of that neighborhood.
All right, thank you. And candidate Maldonado Wilson, bringing jobs, businesses, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I know that that particular area is predominantly black neighborhood and black families. In fact, Stormies is just like a stone's throw from 287 in Barry, and they have like the best food in the city. So we need to make sure that we're going to be centering the business owners that are already along that corridor and making sure that, you know, if we're going to try to be revitalizing this area, that we're going to give them the opportunity to participate in that revitalization plan first, give their opinions and their input first, and then we build it around them, because they have been there for 20, 30, 40 years, and they are sick and tired of being shut out of decisions when it comes to economic development in Fort Worth. And I can tell you that as a councilwoman, I will not stand for them trying to go over the heads of this black community and trying to push anything down their throat that they don't want.
All right. Then the next question comes from Fernando Flores with the South Hemphill Heights Neighborhood Association, who notes that there is a large Spanish-speaking community in District 11, and so wants to know, do you speak Spanish? If not, how do you plan to communicate with Spanish-speaking constituents?
Yes, Mi nombre es Ricardo Avitia y soy hijo de migrantes. Mi mamá es de Chalchihuites, Zacatecas. Mi papá es de San Lucas de Ocampo, Durango. Y estoy aquí para representar a la gente trabajadora de nuestra comunidad. Nos estamos, queremos representarnos con respeto y adecuadamente para dar nuestra perspectiva de clase trabajadora. Mi mamá limpió casas toda su vida, mi papá trabajó en construcción, entonces yo conozco primeramente y a primera mano las experiencias de nuestras familias y comunidad hispana. Muchas gracias. Voten por Ricardo Avitia, mayo 6.
All right. What's that?
Thank you. I'll greatly translate. I've been fighting for Fort Worth, South Hemphill neighborhoods as well as through the Hemphill No Se Vende. But what I said is I'm a migrant, first-generation American. My parents are from Chalchihuites, Zacatecas, and San Lucas de Ocampo, Durango, Mexico. And unfortunately, fortunately, I understand firsthand the experiences of the working class American in this community.
All right, thank you. All right, same question for candidate Herring. Do you speak Spanish? If you do not, how do you plan to communicate with Spanish-speaking constituents?
Well, Mr. Avitia is a tough act to follow. So I don't think I can equal that. But no, I do not speak Spanish. But I will say that it is the primary and essential function of whoever I hire as my district director will be a bilingual person, because that is key, the communication skills. Also taking use of materials that are in Spanish and English to make sure that people are getting the information in both languages that they can understand. In addition to that, I would point out that, we have representatives on the council now that represent highly concentrated Hispanic areas of Fort Worth where language may be a barrier. And to my knowledge, I don't believe that some of those are bilingual. So I don't necessarily see that as a hindrance to serving those communities effectively if I'm making every effort possible to make sure that I'm communicating with them in the right way.
Thank you. And candidate Martinez, do you speak Spanish?
So, yes. I am the proud daughter of Mexican immigrants, first generation. My parents are from San Luis Potosí and Guanajuato. So I'm fluent, I can read and write. Frankly, if you do not speak Spanish, you're at a disadvantage for this position. I can reach to all corners of this district. I will provide materials and any type of communication in both Spanish and English and any other language that is needed. I will come to the community, to areas where there is concentrated Hispanic people, so that I can speak to them and educate them on all the issues that are going on, all the services and resources. It is my dream to bring the resource fairs to the community for folks that still aren't aware of social services or homestead exemptions or any type of incentives that are out there for them. Areas like La Gran Plaza, where our families go regularly to purchase stuff that we can only find in Mexico, and for those people that can't travel to Mexico, this is the area you need to go to because they literally have everything. But, other areas, and just communication in both languages, materials in both languages.
All right. Candidate Maldonado Wilson, your thoughts on Spanish and communicating with the people of the district?
Sí, yo soy una latina muy orgullosa y ha tenido 5 años luchando para comunidades morenos y hispanas en Fort Worth. Este distrito son la mayoría hispana y moreno y necesitamos juntar. Nosotros tenemos el números, pero no lo votan. Entonces, por favor, juntan. Tu voto es tu voz. Y vota el 6 de mayo, cuando puede. What I said was that I am a proud Latina, and I have been fighting on behalf of black and brown communities for Fort Worth for the last 5 years. This district is 80% black and brown, and we need to unify ourselves and use our voting block to make sure we have representation that care about our needs. With that said, as the city councilwoman, I want to make sure that everyone's included. And if we have to really speak on the issue, there are louder areas of District 11 that will have no problem maintaining their representation. But it's those who have been shut out without a voice that really need someone speaking up on their behalf.
Thank you. The final question, and then we'll go into closing statements, comes from Ramiro Lopez from the West Meadowbrook Neighborhood Association. He notes that the new District 11 is home to Fort Worth ISD and several charter and private schools. And with that in mind, he wants to know what you see as the city's role in supporting the youth of District 11.
Yes, supporting the youth of District 11 is extremely imperative. We know that Fort Worth ISD is not at third grade reading level. Coming from a migrant family, I understand the struggles of students who don't necessarily know how to read or write in English, as I was one of those students. My mom only has a third grade education, as I stated before, so she is not able to provide me with the resources that I needed to be successful in school. We know that 70% of Fort Worth ISD students is also Hispanic. So being able to inform those parents about how the systems work in our new cultures and society is also going to be imperative as we traverse in this new district. Mainly, we're also at a $48,000 medium income level per household, which is less than the $65,000 per household medium income in the city of Fort Worth. So when we start to talk about demographics and education is at the top of my priority list. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, the same question, candidate Herring, is what do you think the city's role is in supporting the youth of District 11?
Yes, well, I think that the city's role in supporting the youth of District 11 is a partnership with the schools. All of the District 11 is wholly contained within the Fort Worth ISD, although there are a number of charter-type schools. I was on a meeting about that on Monday night with a group of parents that were part of the charter schools, and I do feel like it's a partnership with the ISD being in the lead, but the city needs to support that. I've been wholly supportive of the current Mayor Parker's reading initiatives and also former Mayor Price's reading initiatives. And I've taken place in both of those by volunteering at Oakhurst Elementary to help with the children with their reading skills. I've also served on the site-based teams at both Oakhurst Elementary and Carter High School. So I've worked with the principals there. I've worked with our trustees, and I believe I can continue doing that and working towards those partnerships. But I do believe the city is in a supporting role, but the city must support our schools because we have to prepare our workforce and our future citizens for the future.
Thank you. And candidate Martinez, what do you see as the city's role in supporting the youth of District 11?
We need to have strong partnerships with our Board of Trustees, our representatives, our schools, both in Fort Worth ISD and our charter schools. I have children in both a charter school and Fort Worth ISD schools, and I know the importance of students reading at grade level. I also want their safety, and I know those are two really big priorities for the schools. But just communication, maintaining communication, staying visible, being there for the students when they need you. I volunteer regularly at different schools across the city during career day, so they can see somebody that looks like them. They can see something that they can strive to. They can know what an education has done in my life. Just continued partnerships, open communication, and just staying visible and being there for them for whatever they need.
Thank you. And candidate Maldonado Wilson, your thoughts on supporting the youth?
Yeah, I feel that the city has failed at this pretty miserably. We have not spent enough dollars on creating programs that catch our kids in the gap. We don't open our community centers enough for them. We don't have enough summer programming for them to be a part of. But we do have good community partners. For instance, the YMCA on McDonald, they have teen night on Friday and Saturday nights where they open up the gym from 9 to midnight to give our youth from ages 8 to 17 a place to go and be safe. They play basketball. The girls have makeup. There's a gaming room. And so these are the types of opportunities I feel the city has really missed. And as a future city councilwoman, these kids, all of our kids in our neighborhoods are going to be my main priority. And so that's going to be spending money on them and stop putting them to the wayside.
All right, thank you. And now we're going to go to closing statements. Each candidate has a minute for closing thoughts. Candidate Avitia.
Thank you all for being here. We all know that a smart city is a rich city. So education, not only for our youth, but also for our current residents, that may have political language or any other kind of barriers, technological barriers where they can't get the information online. I'm also, again, the defendant, one of the founding members of Hempe No Se Vende. I will continue to fight for our current residents at City Hall. And I am the only candidate that has construction management experience. I will be able to have hands-on experience in construction. I can read, I know about the bidding process, the project management process, and I will adequately and respectfully represent our working class community. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. All right. Candidate Herring, your closing thoughts?
Yes, as city council person for District 11, my top 3 priorities are protecting, preserving, and improving neighborhoods using the strategies that I've already employed for the past 30 years, and I think they can be successful elsewhere. Also, managing Fort Worth's explosive growth. It has to be done through advanced planning. We cannot be behind the 8 ball when it comes to this. We have to plan for it because it is coming. Also, relieving the tax burden on the homeowners in District 11. It's crushing many people, and we have to find a better way to manage that. I just feel like my 30-plus years experience working with City Hall is going to allow me the broad background to work with District 11 and some of the priority projects throughout the district, specifically advancing the East Lancaster Avenue improvements, working to protect and advocate for Gateway Park, assisting and helping the folks in Poly with the Poly Main Street USA grant, also protecting and working with the folks in Echo Heights to stop any further industrial pollution in their neighborhood. That's paramount. And those will be some of the top items that I'll begin to work with absolutely on day one.
Thank you. And Candidate Martinez, your closing thoughts?
Yes. We need property tax relief. We need safe streets to drive on. We need jobs that pay livable wages. We need safe neighborhoods that we can live, work, and have fun in. I will be the bridge that can bring communities together. I am the most qualified. I'm the most educated. I have experience in local government. Safe streets, safe neighborhoods, opportunity for all. And I humbly ask for your vote on May 6th.
All right. Thank you. And Candidate Maldonado Wilson, your closing thoughts?
Yes. District 11 has a very unique opportunity to set a standard here. And that standard should be that you will not put up with somebody saying one thing and doing something else. That you will not put up with being completely ignored and shut out. That you will not put up with being sold out to special interests or projects that are coming to the east and south side. As an ER trauma nurse, my whole entire career is about service, meeting you where you are in your crisis. Not according to my estimation of it, but according to yours. That's the type of leadership that I want to give District 11, that no matter what issue you have, that I will meet you where you are at with it, and we will work together to bring a solution and resolution to it. Let's invest in our communities. Let's set the standard and elect someone that's going to fight for you. And the only candidate on this stage that will do that is me.
All right. Well, thank you to all the candidates, and thank you to all of you. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Tomorrow we've got the school board, the Tarrant County College Board, and the water board. So we hope you'll come back. Thank you to our hosts at Texas A&M. All have a great night.
Thank you one more time. Yeah. I want to. Don't play with us. You have a great day.